This club eventually turned into something a lot bigger. I started to get members from all over the community in the Valley. I strongly believe that it's one of the most powerful assets somebody can have because a confident person can make a change essentially.
How do we add to that to make it, valuable? A model student wants to come in and join. My job is to make sure that they're always educated with the most current information. This is individualized training, but it also is the person in front of us is the next person that's going to pave the way for the next one. There has to be a purpose behind what we do, and our purpose, like we said, is much bigger than that. It's breaking those barriers, breaking those standards.
Today, we've got two incredible guests in the studio, Gia and Jo, the powerhouse duo behind Corella Co. Corella Co is one of Arizona's leading modeling schools, and over the past 5 years, they've helped over 400 aspiring models step into their full potential. With over a decade of experience each in the fashion and modeling world, Gia and Jo know exactly what it takes to succeed in an industry that's as demanding as it is glamorous. Their mission, to redefine what it means to be a model, because for them, it's not just about walking the runway, it's about walking through life with confidence, purpose, and self-belief. Let's just start into how you got into the fashion industry. What was your first things that you did?
Yeah, for me it was pretty early on. So I was 16 years old in that age range, 16, 18. When I started the modeling industry, and that was back in Texas, where I'm from. Mm-hmm. And so basically I casted for modeling. I don't even know what to call it because 400 people showed up. And I was just like, okay, kind of like a cattle call, right? And so anyways, from that point on, I was selected to be with an agency group. And so that's where I got started as a model. So back then, and that was, I don't want to give away my age, but it was a long time ago, over 35 years ago.
Not too long. Kevin Hart.
Back then, it was a little different because, again, you don't have the technology you have today, right? So I didn't have a cell phone. There was certain things that, I didn't have accessible to me. So anyway, one of those things was, just the simple things, like I said, a cell phone, it would probably
So getting nice. In communication with people was pretty tough to get into the industry, or?
Yeah. So if you weren't discovered that way, and especially in our town was pretty small. So it wasn't something that you kind of saw every day. So that's why so many people showed up, because it was a big deal. Okay. And so they selected 12. I was one of them. And then, that was basically how I got started. I didn't know what I was doing, believe me. But, people kept telling me you should do this. It's just scrawny little tiny stick.
Figuring it out. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, we all got to figure it out.
Back then, that was the industry standard. You had to be
the look.
0,
yeah.
Tall,
Wow.
Very different.
Yeah. So 5'9", that size 0 for sure. Some of the things I share with Jo is very much, what the standard was back then. The reason why I do explain that is because, again, we're trying to change how models are perceived and how the industry should see models as more professionals and not necessarily just a commodity, right? Mm-hmm. So, so it happens, day in, day out, but we basically, that's how I got into the industry. My parents are from immigrants, so they didn't know what I was doing. I tell them too, when they send me a contract, I signed it myself.
You had nobody to help you.
Yeah, I didn't really get permission, but, it was one of those things that I really believed that I should do. My father is an international soccer ref back in the day, so my brother is too now, but basically, I saw it as an opportunity not only for me to travel, but to expand my own,
portfolios,
education. Behind it. So, because I saw my dad travel all over the world, I aspired to that. He's one of my biggest mentors, and so I was like, I want to do that, but obviously not as a referee. I want
figured out your own way.
So I really saw that early on. I don't think at 16-year-old thinks of that, but I did. It was kind of because, again, I was exposed to it. So many years we traveled with my father, and, you know, obviously South America, Europe, everywhere, you know. And so he internationally, you know, it was one of those things that you embrace the cultures, you embrace everyone around you. And so my father, that's why I say he's a big mentor, is because he introduced us to so many things that maybe most don't, you know. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
So you said that you started that at like 16-ish. So was that something that you always, because I'm not sure if I missed it, but did you always want to do like modeling or whatever? Because
Not
you said the people were kind of
necessarily.
like just showing up and you just kind of showed up and it happened almost? Or?
Yeah, it actually happened. Some of my friends, some of my high school friends were like, you know, we're gonna go to this thing, you know, you should go,
Gotcha.
kind of thing. But I was working. I started working when I was like 14 years old. So I was working, and I left work for that. I grabbed my father's pantsuit, and that's what I wore. I wore a blazer and his pantsuit. That's what I wore for my casting. And so when, yeah.
Was it,
I'm sure.
was it very, I was about to say, was it very loose? Because,
Yeah.
Oversized.
like, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, back then, you know, the shoulder pads.
Okay, I
and
got you.
everything.
Yeah.
We all have asked photos of like her modeling era, but
Yeah.
again, there was no cell phones or anything. So she's like, here's a newspaper.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
No,
Because
but
I'm like, obviously my family wasn't around to take photos of me. You know, most of this stuff I was doing it on my own, which is kind of like, at the time I didn't even think of it. You know what I mean? At the time I was like, well, why? You know, I didn't even think of taking a photo, or, you know, images that we got were basically from other people or photographers that were in the room.
okay.
Do you
Yeah,
do you
those
like
were
that
rare.
concept, or do you like it now where like everything, like there's pictures of everything, there's videos of everything, or do you like the like the
kinda
whole
changed
idea of
now.
it like only being in only like specific places, or like
Yeah,
is there like
I'm
a,
kind of like that. Jo knows me so well because of this. She's like, you never like share anything, and I guess because I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm there, I'm fully present. I don't necessarily look at my phone. I don't think about taking a photo, even when we eat. And then this was
I'm
Right.
like, wait.
she's like, wait, don't touch the
Phone
food.
first.
Don't touch the food. And I'm like, wait, I like just enjoy it. Look how pretty.
Completely different generations.
that's
It's crazy.
funny.
Yeah, so I think that's how we work so well together, because she gets to embrace, you know, a lot of appreciation of like how I did things, you know, and so and the same for me. You know, I appreciate how she does things, and in a more obviously modern way.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that we want to talk about, is how you guys kind of work together and are able to build what Corella Co or Corella Co is today. So, I mean, yeah, no, your story is amazing. Like everything that you've kind of been through is
Yeah, well, a lot of the stories I share as a model back then is, you know, when I showed up to shows and there was a certain restriction, obviously, you know, I had to stay my weight. Measurements had to be 0 or 00, which is almost non-existent. Yeah.
wow.
And so there's certain things that, again, I don't necessarily think it affected me, but I saw other girls go through the same thing, and it affected them. And so the reality of the modeling industry back then was that it was so, I don't know, I don't even know how to
harsh?
Put into
explain
words,
that,
like,
because
It's very cutthroat.
Very cutthroat
you
was
had to
what I was
be
thinking,
This
yeah.
exact
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah, and so if you weren't, then you weren't in the show. Period. I mean, and so for a lot of girls, I mean that's a big dream, you know. And so
Yeah.
put on the spot, and certain things that I saw backstage of girls not only harming themselves but also like doing things that maybe wouldn't be healthy otherwise. Yeah, I thought that was, I think for me it was very impactful, and so. When I stopped doing this, that was one of the things that I was like, wish I could have had a voice in. Because back then, you guys, I mean, obviously, if you don't know the era, for me, I wasn't allowed to speak. If you were on set, you were not allowed to speak. You were there for a pretty face, and that's it. It
Wow.
wasn't about anything else. And now models are more empowered. Obviously, you know, you have a cell phone, you can record anything now.
Yeah.
You can say you have a voice now, which again I didn't have. They made me feel like I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, and so the environment just was that. And so, yeah, you can only do that for so long before it affects you.
How long did
long-term.
you do the modeling before you?
I did it on and off until in my 20s.
Okay.
But it was really on and off. I only did it for certain, occasions, or if fit my schedule. By that time, I was already in college. I graduated college, and then I was already working on my career and, business. So,
Okay.
yeah, it extended from there. But, I did it on and off for people I knew.
Yeah. Well, no, that's super great to hear. Yeah, it's great to hear that too. Like, I've just known you guys for so long, so it's great to hear kind of how you guys started in the industry.
Yeah.
What about Joe? How did you kind of get into it and get your start?
So I started when I was 15. I started in pageantry, which is a completely different world. But obviously, I'm very grateful that I did it and I experienced it, because pageantry really, it just helped me discover the confidence that I didn't know I had. And thanks to pageantry, I met Gia as well, because she became my pageant sponsor and mentor at the same time. And so throughout my pageant journey, it's when I discovered that I wanted to be behind the scenes. So I really wanted to direct the girls. I wanted to help in any way that I could. Again, because it helped me find my voice, I wanted to do the same for others. And so throughout that same year, I had started a small club in high school, which I had just started it for fun. It was nothing serious. We would meet. It started with 4 members. Nobody would take it serious. I would teach modeling, runway, what I knew at the time. Nothing.
How old were you?
Nothing structured. I was 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're probably like a freshman in high
Sophomore.
school?
I was a sophomore by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was my sophomore year, towards the end. And obviously, people didn't take it serious, right? You're in high school. It's like, modeling, okay, that's kind of silly. Okay,
Yeah, they're like, these
But,
people are really
yeah,
taking pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would get made fun of, but I would try to convince people, like, no, you should really do it. It's going to help you. It's going to make you more confident. And I really wanted to push for the confidence, because it helped me with confidence. And I strongly believe that it's one of the most powerful assets somebody can have, because confident person can make a change, essentially.
Yeah.
And it impacts your everyday choices. And so this club eventually turned into something a lot bigger. I started to get members from all over the community in the Valley. And again, it was just for fun. We would meet in backyards. We would meet in basketball courts. We would practice anywhere that we could, just for fun. We would do runway, communication,
After
I don't know,
school, or
small
did you
activities.
have like...
After school and before school at 6 in the morning.
Before school? Oh.
It was all passion, I'm telling you. Like, it was just like, if you knew, if you got to experience it, it was actually doing something in the life of these young students. And so that's why I wanted to do more. And so when I started to see the change that it was having on people, I knew I wanted to do more, but I didn't know exactly what yet. So it was just an idea, right?
How long was it, like, because you said you started with 4 people, like,
Yes.
how long did it take before it was like a thing, I guess? Like, when
Probably
you guys
a
were
year.
a year of it.
A year, yeah. Junior year is when it was like, okay, this is popping. Like, this club is it. Yeah, you
No
have
way.
to join the Aztec Fashion Club. That's what it was called. We don't speak of the name.
Hashtag.
It was our school. Our school.
Don't say that.
I know. Check it out. Yeah, so it was a club, and so that same year, the following year is when I met Gia. She started to sponsor me for my pageants, and it's crazy the way we met, which she'll probably talk a little bit more about that, but it was all aligned in a way. God never fails. Like, it was all meant to be. And so I started to work for her as well. She was managing stores at the time, and I had never had a role model in my life that I could look up to in the way that I look up to Gia. And I remember just seeing the way she, talked to the clients, the way she carried herself, and I'm sure you guys see it too. Like, it's just this like grace and confidence that it's so calm and powerful. I don't know how to describe it, but I really was just in awe of it. And so I love talking about this, because it's like,
Right?
we know.
Now it's forever said.
I know, right? It is. And so I just remember I always wanted her approval. I always wanted her approval. And so at the time, I was always talking about this modeling school that I wanted to do. I had this idea, and I was just never able to bring it up to her because I was always too nervous. But one of our coworkers at the time told us, like, hey, you guys should do something together, which was honored that she said that. I'm like, me do something with Gia? Like, okay, like that's never
And
gonna
you
happen.
were
But okay.
that was when you were like her assistant for the
I was
stores,
working
or
for her. Yeah,
Okay,
at the
so-
store. I was an associate. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What was the relationship at this
Yeah.
point? I'm a little curious. Like at this point, were you guys like?
Well, it
you
was a
w- no-
professional one.
Yeah.
Only,
Gotcha.
only because I did obviously sponsor her through her pageants. And then when Joe started working for us, then it became more of like, obviously I had to be a manager role, and so, yeah, so it was a strictly professional one. Even though I did share, a lot of knowledge and a lot of that's how I train my teams.
Yeah.
I really empower my teams to be able to like not only perform on their own if anything happens to me. That's how I train, and how I believe everyone should lead people, is that you never know what's going to happen, so you always want to pass on as much knowledge as you can. So my job was that, and so when I had these I think we had like 4 associates at the time, maybe. Yeah, and so primarily Marissa, which was our assistant manager, she's the one that basically mentioned it to Joe, and Joe was just scared to approach me.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long were you guys working together until you finally were like, I'm gonna
I brought it
propose
up to her.
She
Oh, really?
me. I will never forget that day. I froze. I didn't say a single word.
So when your
Like,
coworker brought it
so
up,
what's your idea? What's your vision? Tell me more about it. And I was like,
You're like, oh, heart starts
I
beating.
don't even know what I said. I probably said 5 words, but that's the crazy part. I didn't have to say anything. Literally, I'm not even kidding. The following week when I came back into work, she had a sketch written of like what the inside of the academy would look like. She was like,
wow.
and the way she described everything was like, I had never experienced that somebody sharing the same vision or idea that I did. And so it was
Wow.
like, I'm telling you, it was meant to be.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's
I
push forward
never
on
had
this.
to explain it. It was just like.
So it was
she
like a
knew.
right away kind of thing.
Yep.
Like
Dang.
don't struggle with like getting like straight to it. And,
No, she just
Wow.
she took me out to eat once, and she had a very serious conversation with me of what a partnership is, if that's something I wanted to do, what it would mean. Like, essentially, we'd become one, right? Like, it's one vision.
Yeah.
And so I was so nervous and excited at the same time. But, it's just crazy, the timeline of it, because at the same time, I had received a scholarship. I was graduating high school, and I had gotten a full ride to ASU. So I had to put everything on pause. Yeah. I couldn't, it wasn't my plan to
Yeah,
go to
that's a
college,
tough
but I was like,
choice.
hey, you know what? It's a full ride. She advised that I should do it. So why not? Maybe I graduate in 4 years, we'll hop back on the business, right?
A year. I told her, give it a year at least. I thought she was going to stay in school. And then she calls me in a year. And she's like, okay, I'm not doing school.
Wow.
Oh wow. So you actually
I-
did take the pause then, like for
Yeah,
the
she
entire year.
did.
Wow.
Nice. year.
No, she went for a year to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I said, okay, we need to.
Just in case.
Regroup,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be the person that took that away from her. No. I said, this has to be something that you really are truly all in. You know, when you're in a business
All
and it's all in, I am sorry, but it becomes, everything, right? You eat it, you breathe it, you.
Yeah, always thinking
It's your
about
child,
the next
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Like what I go, and I didn't know that she understood the scope of it. Because I was already like, oh, this is big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
that was what I was gonna ask. What was like? How did you think this was gonna be? Like, why did you believe that it was gonna work so much to like do that the next day?
I think because my knowledge from what I went through, doing, modeling or in the industry, there was a lot of opportunities that I saw that were like, okay, this makes sense to me, where I could see myself basically seeing other people in my shoes. They've never had formal training. They've never had, any type of mentorship, any type of guidance in this industry. And for the longest time, I mean, there never was. Most models, if you speak to them, they just say, well, we fake it till we make it kind of thing,
Yeah.
We basically wanted to make that a more, not only a curriculum based program, but also like we wanted to structure something behind it. What else does it mean to a person, you know, when you are mentoring them. So, and we'll get to that, you know, obviously in our program, but the thought itself for me was, you know, okay, this could be much bigger than what essentially we thought of. Well, a school, you know, is, you know, considered, I don't know.
Something
you know,
that possibility that could happen. How many students did you have when you told her about it? You already had like 100 plus or somewhere around there?
Well, we
50?
didn't launch until way later, right? So throughout this time, I was in college. I was freelance modeling, just doing what I could. She was also in the business scene. So we didn't start till a few years after that. Or 2 years.
And so I'm a little curious because you said that. So what exactly? Because there must have been something said prior to that, to where she came in the next day. Because you said you were so shocked when she came up to you and asked you for the idea. I guess I'm curious. Was there something that was already laid out? Did you like think of this ahead of time? Like, I don't know. That's like, because you say it's such a big thing. Like, how did you come up with the idea of it?
I think because Jo had already started more of like, okay, this is how we can gather people based around certain elements, right? But then when we broke it up and we said, okay, it could be this much bigger, and we started putting things into place, then it became a little bit more apparent that we could make this a whole curriculum. So it really was structured around like what she initially thought or said, or actually you did. You know, you were instructing people even though she says she didn't know.
Right.
I mean, obviously compared to now, the amount of knowledge is so much different, right? But back then I was teaching like the basic that I knew.
Yeah,
and
right.
I mean, it worked, but
No,
it was
that's
very
what the people
different.
needed too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even the skill behind it. It was more of the support system.
Yep. It was a community
It's
behind
the
it.
community support system that she created. So how do we add to that to make it, you know, valuable and to make it, you know, where somebody, obviously a model student wants to come in and join, you know. So there's a lot of things to obviously breaking down a business, as you guys know. So because I already had, throughout my years after college and, you know, professionally, you know, I started consulting companies, local companies in Texas. And so that's how I ended up in my position I was consulting businesses like ours, you know, that we're struggling. We're really depending on like what should we do next? Or they were struggling with teams usually. And that's where I came in and basically restructured their companies, whether it was that or maybe retrain or whatever it was. But I was already very in tune with how to develop teams. So, you know, it made it easier to kind of break things down for me because I already do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So, you know, that's why we say, you know, she brought a lot of the elements that she wanted to incorporate, but also I wanted to obviously create a business out of it. So my business knowledge, that's where it became kind of like magic for us, you know,
Yeah.
It was
that
a
came
balance.
together.
What was that first step that you guys took to begin the school, or what did you guys think it was at that time?
So it was
So it was 2020,
2020.
and Jo didn't tell me.
but keep in mind, she didn't have social media, so I wasn't working for her anymore. Like we lost touch, and at that, when I wanted to start, I was like, I need to prove this to myself because I just needed to make sure that it worked before, you know, the big leagues came in. So obviously that wasn't the wise choice. You know, we all make mistakes. It wasn't the best choice that I made. There was no structure. Again, I went all in, but it was just all passion. But that's it.
Yeah.
Just passion, no knowledge and anything else. And so obviously when we launched, there was 80 students. Wow, like that's a lot of people, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
for
But
launching.
again, no structure. So you can imagine it was very chaotic. I was very much still behind the scenes. We had an instructor at the time, and so I wasn't really like in the forefront all the time because I was like, again, there's a lot that goes on behind the business, and I didn't know what I was doing behind the scenes. So I was just trying to figure it all out. But eventually, obviously, we reconnected. It wasn't too long after. And she restructured everything. So that was like,
How did
okay,
you find out about that?
Oh,
You
Jo
called her?
Yeah,
You,
I
you
called
said
her.
you needed
I
help?
remember. I think I called her. Yeah.
Yeah, Jo
Well, I
called
told
me.
her, like, okay, I started, and she was like, wait, what?
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, we need to get through this now. What did you do? Like, how did you,
Yeah.
the
Well,
first thing that you did
I
after
was
that?
very busy at the time, and so I was traveling back and forth between Arizona and Texas. So the company I worked for basically gave me full power of their company. So, you know, I was just traveling around. And so that kept me, you know, in and out of Arizona. So it was one of those things when she called me, I was a little surprised, but not necessarily in a bad way. It was more like, oh, I'm glad she started and she wanted, because again, I believe, you know, there is power in just starting, you know, just like anything you do in life, right? And so I commended her for it, and I said, okay, that's great. You know, how does it look now? You know, and so
She's like, that's what I want to talk to you
That's why you need
about.
to come in and just, and I literally, she came and I just told her everything. I had a bunch of papers with a bunch of stuff. I was like, this is what it is
Please
right
figure
now.
it out.
So she, within a week, I think she like redid everything, and we kind of had to like restart everything in a way.
So how was that first year of working together? Like once everything was figured out and kind of like figured out, like how was that first year?
No, it was great. It was one of those things where it was great and it was hard at the same time, right? You know, it's the bittersweet of this is that, you know, the teams that were involved, unfortunately, didn't plan out, you know, and this is a business, and we say this because it has been a struggle for us to even find people that think like us, right? And so it's one of those things, this kind of environment has to have people that care and not about themselves.
Selfless.
They have to care about other people, okay? And this is a community that is, it's not about you. And so I think that's where people struggle. When they come into a company, they feel like they're entitled, they're empowered by, oh, well, I did this and I did that. Okay, but what has it done for the team? Okay, so again, those are the kind of people that unfortunately, you know, were in the situation, but that's okay. You know, again, you learn from those lessons. I always tell them, you will always take away something. Okay, not necessarily bad, and you know she calls it a mistake, but you know I think it was right in line with right in line with what needed to happen.
Yeah,
That's true.
You know, and so from there we grow, from there we change. You know, and so I think I'm a strong believer in that, and that's how I regrouped and retrained teams in general, because again there's got to be a certain person in place for every job, and those people have to be in line with what your vision is, what your mission is, and that's so important to us. And we say it time and time again, this has become much bigger than what we thought it was, but again, it's our mission to fulfill it, you know, and whatever that is. Most people don't get to speak to us on that level. You guys are the first ones to even hear this. Yeah, because again, it's hard to share that, because again, most people see it on the surface, you know, of what we do, and it's so much more than that. And that's really where it comes from. Is the passion comes from that. We get to work with the youth that not only trust us, right? That's a big part of this, but also we get to fulfill a lot of their goals and aspirations, and that's so important. You know, for us, we just don't take that lightly at all. So again, it just goes beyond this, and so yeah.
So how was the one that I filmed? So kind of a little backstory on how we met. Was that production in 2020? It was with Daniel. Yeah. So like that first year that like I made that one video, and you guys hired me to film that first graduation, or it was like the one to prepare for them, or what was that one about?
It was our 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that like your guys' first structured class, or how did you guys kind of manage training all them at that time?
we call them the OGs. So that
Yeah.
that group started with us from day one, majority of them, and they were with us for 2 years. So we tested the program on them in a way. But truly, for the past 4 years, we've changed the curriculum within months. I mean, we're always updating it, right? And I think right now we're in our prime with the curriculum. Like it's.
Can you guys like briefly kind of explain a little bit about what you guys teach or how they like it helps a model when they enroll?
Yeah, and so, well, it went from like what Joe is saying, from 2 years, almost 2 years, so like 18 months, to now it's an 8-month program. And so they're not there every day. They're only there once a week. So 32 weeks that they get to work with us, with our team, obviously. You've met Jonathan and Mel. And they're a big part of this because, again, we've struggled with that. How do we, we say, how do we duplicate ourselves to be able to provide the same, not only the same level of knowledge, but also the passion behind it, right? Because no one is passionate about our project or our world as we are, right? And so we have to instill a lot of trust in our coaching team. Obviously, we're always there supporting them, but my job is to make sure that they're always educated and with the most current information, that we're not training what we trained 5 years ago, because we are getting up into 5 years, right?
Yes, quick. Yeah, time goes so quick.
Right.
They say once you hit year 5, you made it. So.
Right?
You made it.
I was like, I don't know yet, but okay.
Like almost
I
there.
know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but the program itself, 32 weeks are spread into like 2 phases. So our phase 1 is basically skill training. And then the second phase is more of implementing those skills. So what does that mean in real time is that they get to do photo shoots and things like that. So what you see on our Instagram, what you see on our social media, those students have spent at least 4 months with us before they get in front of a camera.
Okay.
So most people don't get to understand that because they think they start, from the get-go.
They're like, we're ready for our photo shoot.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't know that when I looked at your guys' socials. So
See?
yeah, wow, 4 months they've already they already passed that stage 1, right? And now
Correct.
they get that opportunity to be on the account and like showcase like just what they've learned.
It's kind of like a soft launch for them, right? So we launch them based on that. But again, they have to hit certain points too. So throughout the process, we test them. We do evaluations. We do a lot of feedback. So that's what makes our program different, is that most people don't get to see that on social media. Obviously, we don't want everything out there because it is very intense what they go through. But at the same time, you know what? There's growth and development in that, and that's what we aspire to, is to make them uncomfortable, as we say, until they get comfortable.
Right.
But again, it's those things that maybe most people don't take on because, again, there's a lot of stuff we go through with them individually. So when you talk about, like, when you ask about success stories, people always ask us that. There's so many levels to that. Success is defined by, I don't know, our one of our students said, you know what, I gained my confidence back. I was in a hole when I came to the program, and now I've got that back. So, I mean, to me, that's invaluable. Like, to me, that's like priceless. So yes, we have models that are on billboards now, and like, they've done the supermodel things, right? That they initially thought they couldn't do, first of all. And then, and they get to these points where they're like, wow, but again, it's a work in progress. This kind of work it's hard. I don't care who you are, putting yourself out there as a model, not only to your community, but everyone around you. Yeah, it's subjective. You're not going to appeal to everyone.
It's a very mental thing too.
Absolutely.
Like modeling, so like because you're always thinking what the other person's going to think about you. So like it's very.
Yeah, so it's that. We got to work with our models from the inside out. How do we build that up so that when they are in front of the camera, when they are in front of an audience, you don't see that, you don't see the insecurities and you don't see that,
Yeah.
But again, it's a work in progress always. You know, Joe deals with a lot of the ups and downs of this, right? Which is communication. Communication is a key, very important part of this.
Yeah.
So constantly communicating with our models, constantly communicating with everyone around us to make sure they're okay, you know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, given so many models that we've, you know, helped, yeah, we're still helping.
Yeah. How many would you say has there been at this point? Like, how many have enrolled in the class, and then like how many are currently like graduates and alumni?
God, we don't know those numbers.
A little guesstimate. You know?
Definitely over 300, I want to say.
300 that have
Estimate.
just enrolled in the whole time, or alumni?
That's a hard one.
Maybe 400 enrolled, alumni
300.
300.
Yeah.
Okay.
200, yeah.
That's a solid number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you guys, so after they passed phase 1, phase 2, and like they, again, like kind of got the skill of modeling, what is the life after Corella Co for them? What do you guys kind of help them out with after that?
It's like, come on.
I forgot.
It's like,
Wait.
I mean, kind of, I mean, before you guys kind of mentioned maybe like what you're thinking, like how do you guys, after they finish the class, like what do you guys just still help them out with? Of course, you guys are like mentors to them. You want to
Yeah, of
help
course.
them and
Well,
whatever they need. What else do you guys
They all
kinda-
have different goals. Some of them want to get signed. Others don't want to get signed. They want to freelance. Others do it again just for the confidence. Others figure out that, okay, maybe I went through the program. I didn't pursue modeling, but I discovered that I love creative directing. I love styling. I love makeup. It's so many branches to it, which
Yeah.
we do expose them to that as well, not just modeling. And so it really, again, depends on what their goals were. We do teach them how to freelance and self-manage themselves as well, because realistically, not everybody is going to get signed. So we're very realistic with them, and we're very aware of how the industry still is. And so it's very challenging because a lot of them do tend to fall off, right? Like after the program, you don't have, you know, your mentors holding your hand every week telling you, hey, make sure you post this. Hey, don't forget to create this and remove this. Like you don't have us there holding your hand. Obviously, we're still there for them anytime that they need us, but it's very different, right? When you're not coming into class and you have your classmates there with you every week. And so it is challenging, and a lot of them tend to fall off and not pursue it as consistent anymore. And so with that said,
Going forward, yes, we are in the process of creating a mentorship program. And so that will become kind of like a membership for our alumni to be able to support them not only in their current, whatever they're doing. You know, again, necessarily it doesn't have to be modeling. There's a lot of support within the industry that people need regardless of that. So if they are working, let's say in production, or they're going into producing their own show, or you know whatever that is for them, we're there as a guide, a resource, just somebody that can look at their contracts, all these elements. And then of course the models that are actively working, they need support on photo shoots, test shoots. They need support with what was I gonna say?
I mean, a lot of people think when you graduate through our program, like it gets easier, right? Like, oh, you graduated, you went through modeling school, you're gonna get all these opportunities now. And it's like, no, it gets harder. It gets
that's where
more
it
challenging.
starts.
That's where you actually start, right? Just like an athlete. You go through your training, okay, now you're an athlete, professional athlete. Good luck, right?
Yeah.
It gets challenging, right? So you need to continue to stay sharp. You need to continue to practice your skills and development. And so that's what we're trying to create now for our alumni. That way they don't fall off so easily anymore, and they continue to stay active and polished.
Yeah, and definitely just through that time, because I know you guys said you guys are like trying to find, or when you guys look for someone to coach, you want someone that has the same values as you guys have. Kind of talk a little bit about the two that are helping you guys right now on building the coaching part of Corella Co. Like, you guys want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, I think the initial part of this is their interview. So they get selected for an interview. And so when they interview with me. It's a little scary for most of them. But
Like, uh-oh, I'm talking
I'm
with
like,
Gia.
oh,
Like, this is the real deal.
Because I know what it feels like, you know?
Yeah.
But it's important for me to, not only for us to understand what the goal is behind this training. Why is it that you're here? You know, that's important. Number one, we ask why you're here, you know, and why did you search for this kind of training? Those answers obviously vary, and it's very important for us to understand that because, again, we want to make sure that we can meet their goals too. You know, it's a two-way street here. So if, you know, they're seeking our guidance, am I able to help them? If we are not, I'm going to be the first one to say, you know what, we cannot help you. But, you know, again, it goes back to integrity. You know, what is this program about? I can bring in hundreds of students. That is not what this is.
How we started.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that is not what this is. This is individualized training, but it also is the person in front of us is the next person that's going to pave the way for the next one. Okay, so we look at that very intentionally because, again, there has to be a purpose behind what we do, and our purpose, like we said, it's much bigger than that. It's breaking those barriers, breaking those standards that most people obviously know about, that I lived, you know, and now we're trying to change. So that's really impactful for us. So if we can open doors for models that never thought they could do this, that is a win.
Yeah.
You know? So again, it depends on the individual, and so the interview process is really important for us. So number one, why are you here? Number two is, you know.
Is that kind of a long process from when they like enroll to when you look through all the applications and all
Yeah,
that?
it is a
We
process.
don't even,
Yeah,
the
make
first
sure
thing we
it's-
look at is their social media, right? If they're already a model, a current model, and they're already branded themselves, sometimes we give it a chance and we're like, oh, maybe they're willing to rebrand, right? Which is the most important part. Are they willing to change their branding? And so a lot of the times they've already branded themselves in a way that maybe we can't help. And so we just don't go
Move
through
on.
with it. Yeah, we move
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
But that's the first thing we review, and then we reach out to them, and then we have to wait for a response. And then once they respond, we coordinate based on their schedule. And then after their interview, they have to wait, you know, after we review our applicants, because we only accept a few number selected students per season. So it is a bit of a process. It takes a little bit of time.
So are you guys just doing this in Arizona, or do you guys like have plans to, I mean, get other students, or like how do you guys plan to just build this bigger?
Yeah, so one of the key components to all this is we were getting a lot of people reaching out from out of state. And so, you know, how do we condense our program so it's effective? You know, that was one of the bigger struggles. How do we condense this to be a little bit more personalized, but also be in tune with like what their needs are, you know, individually? Because again, that becomes a little bit more, because again, we don't work with them as much. And so for us in our regular program is for students that basically need like everything, right?
Yeah.
From beginning to end. You know, they need, you know, not only the basics, but also they need the business side. They need this. They need essentially everything that we teach plus, right? So how do we condense this and make it effective so that everyone that joins the program, obviously there's value in it, but we want them to be able to benefit, right? And so we introduced AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, to our out-of-state, I don't know, students, you know, students or models, and also in-state, we basically want to train the models that are with agents. So those models are the ones that need additional training. Usually when you, I don't know if you know this, but most agents don't do training, formal training. So a lot of the things that we apply to our program is based on that too, is that we want to help them not only get noticed, but also have an edge on everyone else. Because again, the skill sets is what shows. So when they go to an agency, they're more prepared. They're actually, you know, much more well-groomed than most models. But but that's really the structure. The AIT program is just a capsule, of what we do. And if they seek more training after that initial 3-day program, then we can, expand that depending on the person.
Okay. Then what do they kind of get being in the AIT? Like, how does that all come about?
The AIT is more individualized, so that means you get to work with us one-on-one. So in itself, whether you're wanting to work in a classroom or not, if we do have those classes where maybe there's only 3 students or 5 students at a time, it makes our job much easier to be able to like facilitate, right? So we're able to give them feedback instantly. That just works for both of us. So the program itself is managed around that, being able to provide them with not only the feedback, but also provide them with the skill sets in a minimal time. So the 3 days is based on that. So also they get to leave with photo shoots, they get to leave with, the experience behind it, but also the skill sets.
A lot of the out-of-state applicants that had reached out to us were like, wow, like we really wish we had this in our state. This is so cool. We want to experience this. And so we're trying to, give them the opportunity as well. We would love for them to be with us for the full 8 months because that to us is like the most important part. But the 3-day program does work, and we've already tested it as well. And we have testimonies from it as well. So it is an experience that we hope other people from out of states that don't have this get to live it as well.
Yeah. How many do you guys have done so far? Like a couple, just a handful, or is there?
Yeah, just a handful of
We haven't really promoted it as much or focused on it as much just yet, again, because we were testing it. So now that we know and we're confident that it works, we're ready to launch it officially.
Nice. No, that's amazing. How do you guys kind of feel from like just how you guys started to kind of where you guys are progressing now? Like, how does it kind of make you feel?
We're like 5 years, it feels like 20.
Like every day is just something different.
Live and breathe it day and night. This is our baby essentially, and everyone that comes through it is also our baby. Like we care about our reputation. We care about, everyone carrying the Corella Co name because it means a lot to us. We live and breathe it, and we hope everyone else does too. It's a fire in us that we can't describe. Once you have it, I mean, I'm sure you guys probably feel it with your passions too, right? Once you have it, nobody can take it from you.
Yeah.
And so we hope we can share a little bit of that fire and ignite it with our students too.
No, that's amazing. You guys have already done, I mean, just an amazing job out here in Arizona. I've told Sean before, I feel like if you're in the industry here and you don't know who Corella Co is, then like you don't, like you're not in the industry, I feel like you guys have just made that name for yourself. So you guys are doing super, super well. And like, again, like you guys kind of gave me my start too. So I can also give you guys like that too. It's like you guys helped me. So.
Oh yeah. We try to help the community in general. So we connect people. I think that's the bigger part of what we do, the networking side. Because that's so important for not only our models, but everyone in the industry. Some of the network nights that we've been to, like some of you professionals haven't even met. Did you know that? Like,
there's
you go into the room and then you're like, oh, I know who this is. I just never met them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I follow on Instagram, like photographers and video that like they're in Arizona, and we have mutuals, but we just never meet until we see each other at an event.
Correct. So we got a lot of that, and so that's why those nights are so important. But also to, like I said, to connect the professionals.
And to add to that, we interview also everybody that we work with, not just students, professionals too. We're very protective and it is very important to build a safe environment for our students too. So we don't work with just anybody. We're very selective about it.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of have to be because, again, it's one of those things that you almost have to live it, to understand it, because we're putting these students in situations where, maybe, they have to go off-site, not necessarily within our scope of things, which is our building. But you know, sometimes we do have to send them out for work and that sort of stuff. So we got to feel as good about who we're sending them to.
Yeah,
You know, and
true.
so yeah, those are things that basically are always behind the scenes.
So to kind of wrap things up, you guys mentioned about the networking nights that you guys hold. Is there anything else that you guys do to provide those types of things for the models, like the networking nights, and then anything else?
What else?
The photo shoots that we do.
Yeah.
The photo shoots are so important because they experience it real time, right? They go through the whole creative process from hair, makeup, wardrobe styling, the actual photo shoot on set, photo critiques, posing critiques, direction. Like, it's not just, okay, go in front of the camera and give us, you know, no, there's a whole mood board behind it. There's a whole theme. You have to tell us a story based on the theme. And you do get critiqued by it too.
So that video that I made with your second year students, did you guys critique them on those ones?
No, I don't think so.
Did they have a, because that one was like they wore all denim. That was your second year graduates, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in that one you guys showed them all that too.
Yeah, I think we didn't get that strict until more in the more recent 2 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because now we
Keeping
have
everything.
smaller groups.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more focus based. So again, we have to not only change what we do, but also like understand why we do it. So everything that we do and apply has to have a purpose. So why do we have these test shoots? Well, it's important for them to understand what it looks like in real time, right? What does it look like when you walk into a set, when you speak to a photographer, when you are dealing with other creatives? What does that look like for them? So in real time, we can do that and say, okay, let's correct this and let's add to this, you know? And so improvement and growth comes from that. If you don't have that person in front of you telling you, hey, this is what's happening, let's change it, then, you know, it takes a longer time for you to realize those things, right?
Yeah.
So we put those things in place on purpose so that we can initiate a lot of those corrections immediately, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
we create these scenarios so we're able to do that. The feedback is really important for our students. So just like evaluations, every time we say a quiz or and they're like, a written quiz? And we're like, yes, a written quiz.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you guys actually have them like a real school. You got homework.
is.
You got
Oh,
the
They
work.
are
you
the
weren't
homework.
joking when you said it right.
The homework is one of the most important, indeed, because you know they're only with us once a week, so they have to practice it at home too. A lot of models tend to
What does
forget.
homework look like for a model? Like,
It's
what is?
different every week. It depends on
so
what they're
different.
learning. Like if we're on the posing month, well,
Yeah.
you know, they have to do a lot of micro movements, a lot of we have to give them themes because models tend to forget that the whole point of modeling is to sell the brand. And it's not about them, right? So we teach them how to tell that story through their posing. It's not what people think it is, right? So there's an art behind it, and that's what the homework helps them with, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they come back, and of course, Jonathan and Mel play a big part in this because
They're amazing.
they become their accountability partners.
They're awesome at
If
it.
they're
Yeah.
they're amazing. If they're absent, if they're late, if anything, you know,
Yes.
they're on top of them, you know. But again, because we have smaller groups now, they're more manageable. When you're trying to keep track of 30 people, I mean, that like it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
So
That's what we learned.
so we had to condense that to make it manageable for all of us, so that we are giving them their time, and they feel seen, you know. And that's a big part of why we do this too, is that, you know, they feel appreciated as much as they appreciate the program. So like I said, it's a two-way street. It works both ways.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. It's super awesome to hear. So how can people get in contact with you, or how can they kind of keep in touch?
You can find us
Joe's
on
number. Just
I can roll first.
You can find our website at coreanco.com, Instagram Corella Co, Facebook Corella Co. Very simple.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being on the
you.
podcast. Like, this is one that I just really wanted to like talk about, because for one, like I've known you guys for a long time. How I mentioned, you guys
that's
helped me a
crazy.
lot in my journey. So, and you guys have helped so many people just in Arizona too. So yeah, definitely having you guys on here and just talking about what you guys do. It's amazing. So thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.